Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And here I am Tarun Sharma and we are talking about all about Prisma, Next.js, NextAuth, tRPC, all these texts combined. And in the last video, we talked about this particular example where we were doing a simple authentication authorization. Simple authentication, and we were using simple. This was the setup. If you check out my previous video, so we are just going to build on top of that now. So that tutorial is done. We were able to build a simple authentication. Now, what is the next thing? Here in this video, we are going to talk about very simple example before we talk about NextAuth and tRPC, because there will be two more videos in this playlist. One will be talk about simple APIs we are building with the NextAuth, Next.js, and then we are consuming that in the client-side components to the route. So in the next JS, we are going to use, let's say, here we are going to define a table in the Prisma schema. Okay, and then we are going to write a simple CRUD, because sometimes it's like very basic examples I'm covering. So the last two videos we covered we built a simple authentication using Next.js API routes, and we build all these pages: authentication page, login, register, and the profile page, and it was all like 3 hours of content. Now we are going to build a simple feedback survey application where without even doing login, because in the next video we are going to talk about NextAuth. But for now we are going to just create a simple API routes. These are like feedback API routes, and it's like get, put, post, and fetch. And this Prisma is going to use SQLite or maybe Postgres. All these database you can use. So we just need to define a Prisma schema file, and we will just do a Prisma migrate and generate, and all these things are happening inside a NX console. So we are using this simple stack. I'm not going to make this application complex. My last video was a little heavy. So this video, we are just going to build a simple feedback survey application where user can submit the feedback with the comment. So it's just like a single model we are going to have in the Prisma. And then we are going to define the API routes in the Next.js, because Next.js 13 we are using. We will define the API routes, and we should be able to create feedback, update feedback, delete feedback, fetch the list of all the feedbacks. And for that we are going to use the same cookies. So here this is my application, right? I can create a clone of it because I'm going to use the same structure and same stack. So Next.js Prisma CRUD, you can say, because at the end I'm just going to run some APIs and going to demo you how this is all work end to end. Okay, so this is our simple stack which we are going to build. So what we need a Prisma client. We don't need any authentications library, because we are not doing any authentication. In the next video we are going to introduce this and this, right? Because authentication will be done by NextAuth, so it will solve our problem of building authentication. We don't need to build authentication of our own. We can use a NextAuth with any social provider, and we will use a tRPC for building our server. So 3 more videos after this we will be having in this playlist. Let's build this. So we created a simple folder. I can just clean up my dependencies, because some of the dependencies I may not need. Prisma client, okay, bcrypt I may not need, bcrypt JS, JAWS, JSON web token, okay. Prisma client is coming twice, why? And Tailwind CSS, React hook forms. Let's keep all the other dependencies, okay. So what we need to do is I can just change the namespace here, because we are using an X console, so it's better if we put a namespace for each and every project. So here I will just put PK Sharma. So this is the Next.js Prisma auth, and this project is all about Next.js Prisma CRUD. So let's define all these. I will just put the namespace here, Next.js Prisma CRUD, and then if you are good at using NX console, you can just use this and you can see all these different applications. I was using T3 stack earlier. So let's use common name for everything. Okay, T3 stack, and here inside a Prisma auth also I will just change the package JSON. I can just make it as a T3 stack, and I can just access NX console. So all these applications we have, right? I can just simply build. So I do have lots of content in this, lots of folders and all. We'll try to clean up all of these. So Prisma, I will just delete the migrations. I will keep the schema file. And here inside source, I do have components, lib, store I can keep. I will just change the store. Lib component I can delete. And inside source, I have app, and all these pages I can delete because these we don't need. I can just keep the page.tsx, which is simple. We don't need header. Okay, so header component we don't need. I will just delete the components itself. Okay, so this is simple layout. This is our root page.tsx, and then these are of my APIs which we are going to build. So these APIs also I'm going to change. Instead of user, I will be doing something like feedback. Okay, I will just delete everything. Variable in the finder, or here I can delete. So inside app, I will create an API folder, and then you can start adding your APIs. Let's say I will have a feedback. So let's say I'm just building a feedback survey, right? So we need to add the endpoints, route endpoints, and all those things. And I'm just building this on top of my existing application. And inside a Prisma, first of all, we will just change our schema file. So, okay, not auth. Here we are going to update this thing. So instead of user, I will just use feedback. And we are going to build a feedback form kind of application. So ID, this is text, this is rating, created at and updated at. So these are the things we have. Rating is of type float, and unique we are going to add to text. This is a unique. Okay, and then what you need to do is simply Prisma generate, migrate, and all these things. So I will open this in the terminal first of all, and I will do pnpm install. So all these cleanup will be done here, and then I will just do npx Prisma generate. So it will, okay, Prisma command not found. It's npx I did, not npm. So it will just add the client and then Prisma migrate dev. It will just populate this model, and model name is feedback. So it will create this table in this SQLite. So still we are using SQLite. That is good for creating these simple demos. And here you can see my env that contains my database URL, right? So here this migrations are created. This is my database, and this is my simple schema file. I think we can delete this. This database we are not using. Schema file. So this is our simple, you can say, tape model that we are going to access through the Prisma client, and we are going to define all our APIs. How we define APIs? Inside source app API, and here, okay, looks like I deleted things from a different folder. This we need to retain, this we need to delete. Okay, I need to do the git checkout. Okay, we don't need to delete anything from this auth folder. So I will just do git checkout from this folder. Okay, this is not the folder. Inside this we have apps. Okay, so these things are restored here in this, and I will be deleting these APIs from the CRUD. So we don't need auth and user. I will delete them, and all these pages I will delete them. So we have profile, login, register, and this is my layout. Layout is fine. Inside a page.tsx we don't have header, so I will delete that. And this is simple, my layout. Store we can reuse. This is my environment file. So we got it. So now we can just build our APIs. So inside API, let's building simple hello, and hello will contain what? Route.ts. Hello will be, so inside this we will create a route.ts, and inside feedback, so inside API I'm going to create another folder, feedbacks. Okay, that will have its own route.ts, and inside this I'm again going to have an ID, because I wanted to do a put patch delete on particular feedback ID, and inside this I'm going to have route.ts. Okay, so this is just the file setup we have created, and what we are going to do in the root feedbacks. So this route.ts I can use for methods, like I want to fetch all the feedbacks. So as export async function, and this, let's say get, this is the get handler, and similarly export async function post. Let's say you are creating a new feedback, and I'm going to handle these handlers through these handlers. Okay, here we are going to access the next request. This is how we create a simple Next.js API routes. So we don't have external APIs. We are going to use the API endpoints provided by Next.js. So here we can handle that through the request. Okay. So now what we need to do is, let's see what we need to write inside get. First of all, we can create the feedback. Okay. So how we do it? We will just put things inside try catch. And now we have already done a lot of work in the Next.js. So we know what needs to be written. So let's say if there is an error response. So what we are doing is, first of all, we need to enter the payload. So how we do it? Const JSON equal to, so const JSON equals to, we need to extract the payload first. Request dot JSON. So this will give us the payload, and then const feedback equal to, here we can use await. I think Prisma. Okay, Prisma is not there. So what we need to do is we need to put Prisma in the library. So we already know how to do it. So inside app, inside source, we can create a lib folder, and inside that I can just put prisma.ts file, so that all these things will be inside a lib folder inside source, and I can import this thing inside my routes, API feedback routes. So here prisma dot feedback, that is, again it's not populating the models. I need to restart after doing generate, then it will start giving me this particular model. So here you can see I restarted, and I can see feedback model is populating on this. So feedback dot. So what we are doing is we are trying to create the feedback. So how we do it? Feedback dot create, and we just pass the payload on this. So what we will do is feedback dot create, and inside this we just pass the data object which contains the payload. So here we have JSON object, and let response, what JSON response we are creating is, okay, let's say the status we can say success, and the data which we have received is the feedback object. Okay, that you can put here inside the feedback. So this is your JSON response, and you can return this next response by stringifying it, right? The next response you can import, and if there is an error, any error, right? So if there is an error code, specific error code, that means the data already exists because there is a unique key constraint on the title, right? So we are passing two different properties. If the error code is this, so it's a try catch. We have used the same code earlier also. If error code is this, that means the feedback with title already exists, and then you can just send a conflict exception. Error is of type any. Okay, otherwise error response will be, so if let's say this is not true, this condition is not true, and we still need to return an error response. So we can just create a custom error response. Let's say there is no conflict, but there is something else. Then you can do something like this and just send a 500 status code in the response to the client. Okay, this is our simple API which we have created for feedback create. So this is the post call. You can see post call to create a feedback. Then we can also have a simple fetch call which can also be paginated, because it's going to be very simple. Because how to do it? So let's say if I just try to do feedback, how I do it is await prisma.feedback, and here prisma.feedback has this really nice option, find many, and inside this you can just specify how many you wanted to skip, or what is your limit. Let's say I'm going to define my limit and order by. I already have created it, so I can just show sending order, right? So I just need to get all these page and limit options, so we can just pass this inside a search parameter while passing it. So here I will just put this thing code inside a try catch. This is error. If there is an error, then we will deal with something like this, and here we are getting the page and limit. Okay, so here the limit we are passing. So in the search params, so there is a search params in the next URL, you might be passing page and limit. So how this is how we will parse it, and then we will just create the skip, how many elements I need to skip. And once I have the feedbacks, all the feedbacks, I can just create a JSON response. JSON response looks like, okay, status is success. And inside the data, so what do we have? We have a result, how many feedbacks we have received, feedbacks.length, and then I can just put all the feedbacks in the response to the client, and here I can just return this particular response, return new next response, and inside this you can stringify the response to the client, json.stringify, that is JSON response. So return JSON response dot, okay, because this is successful response, you can just simply do is next response dot JSON. This is a method we haven't used it, and this is already a JSON object we can return. Now if there is an error, right, so we need to build an error response for it, same as like okay, status is error, and then this error is of type any. This is like fetch feedbacks, and then we can just do return new next response, and here you will just put your stuff json.stringify error response, and then you will put the status code. So the status is, let's say I'm just saying 500, and headers, I mean you can just send the same headers which we are receiving and sending earlier also, content type application JSON. Okay, a simple get endpoint and the post endpoint. Get endpoint is giving you all the feedbacks in the paginated way, and the Prisma supports it very nicely. Skip and the limit it takes in the query itself, in the find many. So this is all post and create. Now there is an ID. So I'm talking about this route.ts. So here we can extract the, we can write all the APIs where you wanted to get a particular feedback, you wanted to delete all these things. So just start writing it. import async function. So we have get header. Inside get we are passing request, which is on type request. Okay, and the second argument here is the params. So here I will access the params, which is of type. Okay, it's params. Inside params also you will get so inside params you will get id of type string, because we are passing id as a path param, right? So how we will access the id equal to, this is the path params dot id. You will get the value of id, and then you can get the feedback. Const feedback equal to update. We already have that. Prisma dot feedback dot find unique, or find first whatever is suitable for you, where id is this, the id which we have received, right? And then if you got the feedback, you will pass it. If you didn't get the feedback, right, so what you need to do, you need to just build an error response and send it to the client. Let's say I don't have feedback, I will just build the response and then I will send it. Otherwise I will send the response back to the client, and that is simple, I guess. So next response json and json response, and I'm sending this feedback. Similarly, there is a patch and delete. Let's say if we talk about delete, I will write the same function here. This is a delete handler. So how we define it, it's instead of get there will be a delete. We got the access to the request, response and the params, and here instead of doing fetch, we can simply do delete. So we already got the id. Await prisma dot feedback dot delete is a method I exist already, so it will delete it. So if it is done already successfully, then we can just return true for no content. Otherwise, let's say if there is any error in this, then we have to fix that. I mean, we need to send the appropriate message and the status code. So inside try catch, we can just do the same thing here. I will just build the error message and error response, and I will set it. So the same thing we can do, error response fail to delete, something like that. So its a status is error and message is fail to delete. Fail to delete resource and send it as like 500 should be still fine, because you didn't find that particular resource. So if you are not able to delete, then it should throw any error, and then we can just throw it, okay, unable to delete the resource and 500 error. Otherwise there are multiple condition checks we can do. So this is delete, and then there can be a patch call. Patch will be just like updating this. So how we do simple update? So if I just convert this into the patch, you should be able to understand it simply. How we do it, I will just create this as a patch, and I will get the id. So params.id, and I will also get the data, right? Because it's a patch call, means you also want to update something. Request.json, this is how I will get the payload. So I will update the feedback. How I do it? So await. So here I can just do is updated feedback equal to await prisma.feedback.update, and it takes two argument, I guess. So first one is the where clause, where this is the id, and here you can pass the data, like, okay, what data you wanted to update if the record founds. Okay, json response success, and we can just return the updated feedback. If there is any error, then we will delete in the same way. We will just return 500 failed to update the resource. Okay, so simple APIs like get, put, post, patch, delete. So we already have the list and the create. Here I just did, okay, you wanted to get the particular id item, you wanted to delete the particular feedback, you wanted to update a particular feedback. All these things can happen through all these different methods. So this is okay. I need to fix Now, okay, what is this? Export async function, try catch, and there is additional. Okay, now it has all these methods which we can consume at the client side in the components. So now let's start this application. So Prisma auth CRUD, and here I will do npm run dev and try to see how it really works. We will just try to test the endpoints. So I want to run this application on 3000. So this is started on 3000. Now I will just try to test these APIs, which is provided by this Next.js endpoints, the feedback, API feedbacks, and then API feedbacks ID. That ID contains the patch, delete, and quit. So we can open our Insomnia, and here we have API feedbacks. So I will just try to access API feedbacks. Okay, it is hitting the APIs and you can see success, feedbacks are empty. That means it's working, right? So instead of creating something like this, I will just try to make a new request, feedbacks. Okay, this is simply get. Now I'll just try to create a duplicate of this. This is feedback create. That is going to be post call, feedback create, and inside this body, I will be passing the JSON object, right? So this is the API feedbacks, which is expecting a JSON object, and here we are going to pass the properties for the feedback. So inside, if you look into this, what we are passing is text and the rating. So I can just pass the text, hello, and then there is another attribute we have is rating. That is of type, let's say, floating. I'll just make this also as a string, and then I will just do the post. Okay, the rating is created. Feedback title is already there. Hello 1, 2, 3. I will should be able to create it. Hello demo. This is simple feedback we are creating and fetching the list of feedbacks here. Okay, that's good, right? So our simple feedback APIs are working. You can also fetch the particular feedback. So this is feedback by ID. I will just create a duplicate, feedbacks by ID. This is also get call, and I will just pass this and send it. So this should be able to give me the selected feedback which is coming back, right? And you can just delete, update. If I want to delete this, I can simply delete this, and now this would be one feedback less. So I just have a two, right? So it's like CRUD operations are we have written using Next.js API routes, and this is how it really works. This is like very simple things, but whenever we are doing a Next.js APIs and you wanted to write some CRUD operations and all with the help of Prisma, you can do. So this is like a very simple demo example to help you understand how we are defining the APIs in the Next.js and how we can access the Prisma. By running the migrations, we populate the tables, and then we can just run these simple queries using Prisma client. Okay, that's all. In the next video, let's talk about NextAuth. So NextAuth, I have already covered one video. I will just give you simple walkthrough that how we are doing the authentication with the help of NextAuth using simple credentials, or by just doing Google authentication with the Google or authentication with the GitHub, all these providers.